With Supergirl dropping this summer, we felt it was a good chance to do a proper review of James Gunn's Superman 2025. Written and directed by James Gunn, a movie made for James Gunn, and the opening shot of a rebooted DC universe relaunching the most famous superhero on Earth. I am the real-life Fake Wizard, and this is a Fake Wizard's review of Superman 2025. If this video brings you any value, hit the subscribe button, as we post new reviews nearly every day. The word on the internet is that this movie is either a dumpster garbage slop fire, or it's an S-tier masterpiece. The truth is, if you're a nerd who has any preconceived notions or expectations about Superman, this film might not be for you. If you are a comic book fan and you own Superman long boxes, if you have very specific desires to see the big blue Boy Scout at his best on the big screen, I don't think this Superman is made for you. If you wanted a Superman film comparable to the Snyder films, this definitely isn't for you. If you want authentic marketing and commercials to give honest representations of the films you're paying to see, Superman 2025 isn't for you. But if you're a normie that has normie expectations, if you float through movies and entertainment where you don't really care, you either like things or you don't really have emotional expectations, you don't let it ruin your day, then Superman 2025 is 100% made for you. This is a hard movie to talk about just on that intro alone. There will be some of you who hate what I'm saying, and you couldn't fathom what I'm saying, and you want to explode on me for it, and that's fine. Go for it. The comments are wide open. This is a polarizing film that will be very challenging to talk about, even just a year later. I feel the same way having seen the film on opening night as I do a complete year later. I feel conflicted, and actually I feel bored, as if there's no reason to watch it again. Most comic book nerds have one or two characters they love, right? Some people like Batman the most, some people like Spider-Man the most. For me, it's a combination of like a top four: Captain America, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Superman. Those are my main four. In 2019, I met George Newbern, one of the many voice actors who played Superman over the years, and we had this really great discussion about why writers of the games and shows and comic books were spending so much effort writing stories where Superman becomes a bad guy. There were lots of those stories at that time, and the Injustice games were huge. Those were all about Superman going bad. The Snyderverse's overarching conflict was about Superman possibly going bad, and heck, even the recent Suicide Squad game, that was a total flop, was once again about Superman being a villain. The last 15 or so years of Superman media is either about Superman being a villain or writing him out of things because writers just don't know how to tell a good Superman story anymore. Well, anyway, George Newbern said something during our talk that was very comforting. He said, and I think it's important now to really talk about this, Superman is always going to be a hero. He's always going to be a symbol of good. The ideal of hope. And the whole injustice theme is and was always going to be temporary because Superman is the hero who never gives up and just wants to protect people. I feel like that's a good setup to this film and what it was trying to be. Superman, the hero who never gives up. On that premise alone, I have to give it merit. They don't nail it perfectly at all. There are some moments that fall very, very short, but otherwise, this Superman just wants to be a good guy. And that was refreshing to see. But you see how I just presented that like, hey, here's something that I liked. But there's also something in that same point that I didn't like. Well, that's this entire film. That's it, man. This is a flawed 50-50 movie with lots of crap and lots of heart. I want to see the cast reprise these roles, but I don't want James Gunn to continue writing Superman. I want to see James Gunn direct, maybe, but I don't want the same thing as whatever this was again. I don't want a direct sequel to this. I want a follow-up, if that makes any sense. This movie meant to cast the widest possible net to be something safe and relatable to as many people as possible. To do that, they made a film that debatably is for the TikTok generation. This movie doesn't sit still. It never slows down. It doesn't stop to breathe. And when emotional moments happen that take place, it quips with every single conflict. And it makes changes to the lore that are aggressively terrible. And yet, besides that, the characters are played off so well that I found myself wanting to see more from this group should it get the follow-up in Man of Tomorrow. David Corenswet played a good Superman. Rachel Brosnahan played a good Lois Lane. The chemistry these two had was refreshing and it was very good. Now, I say that and I tell you that I liked them, but I also need to follow up that they changed the dynamics of their relationship. Clark is now the emotional one. Lois is the more stoic and reserved one, and somewhere in there, it's like they wanted Lois to be a girl boss, but they pulled it out right before the film hit theaters. And we look at Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, where, okay, the performance was great. The writing around him, not so great. There are full scenes that just have Luthor exposition dumping so the audience will understand what he's trying to do. That detracts from the scary and pure evil that Holt is trying to bring to the character. I take him less seriously when he's just expo dumping everywhere, and yet I still want to see Holt play this character again. Then there's the Justice Gang. Mr. Terrific was terrific. This is the coolest live-action version of Mr. Terrific we've ever seen. However, I feel about the other two characters the same way I did for the Justice Society and Black Adam. I know people loved Nathan Fillion as a Green Lantern, but I didn't care for him at all. For every single time the Justice Gang, yes, Justice Gang is on screen, I recall thinking, get these misfits out of my Superman movie. Hawkgirl was embarrassing. She didn't do anything. That brings us to the biggest issues with this movie, without giving clear spoilers, although it's been a year, so what does it matter? The story with Krypton is the worst I've ever seen on screen, and I completely hate it. I have nothing nice to say about it, and it looks like they're gonna double down on the insult in this upcoming Supergirl film too. But I think the biggest issue of this film is that Superman doesn't feel super. This is the weakest iteration of Superman we've ever had on screen, physically, of course. And I think that could have easily been avoided when you break down why he's appearing to get his ass kicked every time he gets his ass kicked. It does actually make sense in the context of the story. Like, there are reasons for him to lose some of these fights. However, they did not do a good job enough showing us that he hadn't lost any fights before this film began. Let me explain. This movie opens on a title sequence telling us that 3 minutes ago, Superman lost his first fight. This suggests that he wasn't defeated previously, which means he is the Superman we all know 99% of the time prior to this film starting. If they had a montage showing us some of his greatest victories at some point, perhaps during Act 1, then every time he appears and gets beaten henceforth, we know that the stakes are much higher for him to have been beaten. But we didn't get any kind of montage like that. There was nothing that could have cleared up any of those loose ends. However, what we did get was a Superman that wants to save people. He's willing to put himself in danger to save others. He's defined by a great relationship with Ma and Pa Kent that I really liked. And this is the kind of film where you have to make your own decision on it. If what I've described is a deal breaker for you, it's a deal breaker for you. And if you loved it, more power to you. Myself, a year later, I am still 50-50 on this, probably leaning towards it being not that good. Regardless, don't get too comfortable. Yeah, with Supergirl's upcoming underperformance and this Superman's underperformance, something tells me James Gunn is not long for the DC world, but hey, I mean, anything can happen. Maybe Man of Tomorrow will make $2 billion like those guys said Mandalorian and Grogu would. Have you seen Superman? What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, create, innovate, inspire others to do so as well, and cancel Disney+.